You're listening to the Shipyard Cat Podcast, the unofficial SAFC podcast for fans everywhere. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the pod. I'm your host tonight, Kev, and I'm joined by Robin, whilst Adam's still away, I don't know, enjoying Greece, I think.
Well, to be fair, mate, the pictures that he sent with the pool as you walk out the hotel room door, I expect he is enjoying it.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, at least the weather's picked up over here now, so, you know, we can enjoy some sunshine too. So obviously, we're here to preview the game against Chelsea, last game of the season. Quite a big weekend in the footballing world. Obviously, a lot of games being played on the same day at the same time that all have an impact pretty much on each other. Robin, obviously, first things first, how are you today?
Yeah, good, mate. I'm, I've done a bit of a marathon shift at work, but that's the last one for a week. I'm off all next week, so I shall enjoy this heat wave when it comes.
True, mate. Obviously, you'll be, I'm guessing, setting off early doors tomorrow morning and making a weekend of it.
Yeah, exactly that, mate. Not quite as early as usual. Set off, get up probably around about 2, something like that. Get all sorted out and checked in. Staying in a lovely little Airbnb in Roker, not far from the beach. So yeah, we'll get up, get settled, have Saturday night out, meet a few of the lads, and then obviously Sunday, big match day, and allow myself hopefully a celebratory European qualification drink after the match, and then return back home on Bank Holiday Monday.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? You're up here, the right weather, right weekend. Like I say, hopefully the right result and make it a bank holiday to remember. I mean, let's be honest, we haven't had a bad few bank holidays when it comes to a May weekend. Obviously, those of you that remember that far back, 4 years ago, pretty much to the day, we were at Wembley. Obviously, different day of the week, but yeah, 4 years ago, we were at Wembley for the playoffs from League One of the Championship. And then obviously, a couple of days' time, it's the year anniversary of another playoff. So yeah, it's been a busy year, and obviously, depending on how Sunday goes, which is obviously what we're here to talk about, we potentially have even more celebrating to do.
I just obviously look back. Probably same as you get memories up on your phone and stuff like that. And obviously 5 years ago, we just missed out, on getting promoted and stuff. I think, I think that was that the Lincoln in the semi-finals year, I think. And, and then obviously we got promoted against Wickham, obviously Embo's goal, and then, Loch Ness Drogba finishing it off. And then obviously, fast forward 3 years, what happened last May. And yeah, it's all of a sudden May that used to be so terrible for us. All of a sudden it's turned into a month we can look forward to again.
Most definitely. I mean, that's the big thing, isn't it? Sunday's game was always going to be, in my opinion, a great game anyway, given how the season's finished. It could just go from being good to being absolutely great. You know what I mean? It's one of those where the full-time whistle will go, the result will be whatever the result will be. But if it's a win, I guarantee you, everyone in that stadium will be checking phones, checking the other scores around us, and seeing what happens next. As the club have tweeted today, there's another chapter to complete. Interesting. Someone pointed this out to me yesterday. The referee at the weekend is Chris Kavanagh.
Yeah, I saw that earlier on today. Just so happened to be the referee last May.
So, are the stars aligning? We shall see. I mean, come on, let's get your thoughts on the game then. Obviously, Chelsea are a tricky opponent. They also still have things to play for this weekend. What's your take? What do we think we can expect from them?
I mean, they've obviously also as well got European qualification to go for. that's the thing with them. Obviously, beating Tottenham the other night, it has put them a point above us. So they are in obviously the box seat, so to speak, in regards to that final place. Obviously Brighton and Brentford are above them, but they do have something to play for. It just seems to be that thing. I mean, obviously that last week they announced that Xabi Alonso will become their new manager. He doesn't actually take the reins until July the 1st. However, I think there's probably been a bit of a bounce in that dressing room. I mean, what I'm really hoping that they were just up for Tottenham to try and get Tottenham relegated. And then they might fall off again this weekend because their last, 8, 9, 10 results have not been anywhere near what you'd expect from Chelsea. I mean, obviously, when the fixture list came out and you looked at the last few games and you saw Man United at home, Everton away, and Chelsea at home, and you're thinking, God, we've got to get enough points before then, because that's going to be a really tricky end to the season. Because realistically, you'd be thinking all three teams, even though United didn't have the greatest of seasons last year, realistically, any fans looking at those three games thinking, look, they're all going to be fighting for Europe. And that's the thing. I think we obviously put a nail in Everton's coffin because obviously if they'd won, they were, in an even better position than what Chelsea were. I think the important thing is this weekend not to get too fixated on possible European qualification. It's about beating Chelsea and guaranteeing we finish above them, not up the road. That's the target, I think, more than anything. If we win and we finish above them and get Europe, it's just a bonus. Obviously, if we win and don't get Europe, it's gonna feel a bit, a bit sad and stuff like that. But the important thing to me is that we finish above them. Europe's going to be nice. It will be great. I know I probably got ahead of myself, but I've saved a lot of holiday. I've not took any summer holiday this year, just in case. Because obviously, it will be Thursday, probably, well, Thursday and Sunday matches. And yeah, it's going to take a bit of annual leave to get them covered. But yeah, look, it's going to be, getting back to the actual match at hand, it's going to be tricky. I think Chelsea are obviously, like I say, they've not had the greatest to run, but they are a team that's filled with talent. It's just not been used. They've got some great players. Yeah, it's going to be one of those. I think we've got to play the match rather than the occasion.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think, like you've just said there, and it was well put, it's one of those scenarios where, yeah, if we don't qualify, fans will naturally look and go, oh, that result there, that difference there, that point there. And I get it, it's natural, but, I've said it in the last three podcasts. If anyone had said to you when that final whistle went at Wembley, you're gonna be pushing mid-table, we'd have all laughed. So, here we are now, heading into the final game of the season, comfortably sitting in the league where we've never really had to look over our shoulders after we had such a good start. Um, I agree with you. I think Chelsea do have a lot of talent in that squad. I watched their game against Spurs, and I did think they got away with a lot. Let's just quickly talk about Jed Spence for Tottenham's got a broken jaw because Liam Delap elbowed him, but the referee didn't see it as a foul. I mean, that's just wild. You don't accidentally break someone's jaw, but it is what it is. I think that's the one thing we will have to expect from Chelsea this weekend. I think they will be quite physical. I think they will be quite rough and tumble. Um, the one thing we've probably got to try and avoid is going anywhere near Cucurella because, he'll say the grass pulled his hair if you could.
I mean, yeah, Cucurella's a cheat. He he's a dirty player. He's constantly fouling people. He's very physical and hands on. and yet the slightest little thing in him, he's thrown himself all over the ground and crying to the referee and stuff. He's a bit like the Chelsea's Bruno Fernandes. Um,
Mhm.
and I think, yeah, we're going to have to be cute. We're going to have to be smart. And that's the thing, really. It's we don't want to get drawn into things off the ball. Um, I mean, obviously, yellow cards get reset at the end of the season, but if you pick up a red, it will carry over. So we don't want to be going into the next season with, important player missing because of something stupid, getting drawn into it. So, yeah, let's just play our game. Um, like you say, I mean, Chelsea's got so much talent, but they're not really cohesive, even against Tottenham, which you got to think, yeah, I know Tottenham were fighting for their lives, but Tottenham really should have scored more goals and possibly won that game. Um, this Chelsea team, they're not a fantastic footballing team. It's a bit like, in a way, the situation that's going on at Real Madrid, where you've got all these superstars and talented players, but they just can't seem to play together.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you got to look at the likes of Garnacho. He obviously fell out of favour at Man United. He then goes to Chelsea, and even their fans aren't 100%. So I think there's a lot of that sort of thing. I think they've got a lot of players that have gone there thinking it's the right move, the right moment in their career, and then it doesn't seem to come to fruition. I mean, obviously they won was it the Club World Cup or something a few years ago?
Yeah. Well, it was last summer, the Club World Cup, which, let's face it, they hadn't even won anything to get there, but because obviously they're American owned, they wanted them there purely because that they're American and all that thing. So
The thing I've seen online, I just want to get your take on this, right? I've seen a Chelsea person, whatever you want to call them. They're not official staff. They've said this weekend the only result they want would be to finish sixth. They don't want Europa, League, or Conference because they don't think it's worth their time. Surely, as a club looking to bring in players in the window, which they will be, Chelsea are well known for spending. Surely, qualifying for something in Europe is going to make you more appealing than 10th.
yes, however, and this is the big however, the difference between, say, Chelsea finishing outside of Europe and, say, the likes of us or Everton, Brighton, Brentford, Bournemouth. I know Bournemouth are, I think, virtually guaranteed a spot in Europe now anyway, depending on the competition. But the thing is, though, with Chelsea, if you're throwing two, three, 400,000 a week at a player and they're living in London, that's all you need, really. It's not a level playing field with foreign players in a way, because they see the bright lights of the big city. And, when you look at teams across the continent, obviously you've got Madrid, you've got Barcelona, and yet you've had other teams in Spain that have done well over there, it's like Sevilla, like Deportivo La Coruña, which obviously, they're in the Segunda now. Obviously Bilbao, which are more of a local club. And then obviously France, obviously Marseille, PSG. Italy, you've got obviously the two Milan clubs and Juventus, and obviously Germany with Munich, um, Dortmund, so to speak, now. But you know, you don't have that pool that sort of London, Manchester has.
Yeah.
So if you're outside of Europe, for the European things, and say, look, this is our project that we're going to have a year outside of it, and we're going to then concentrate on winning the league, but we're going to pay you £350,000 a week, they're going to join.
Yeah, it's a more appealing prospect than someone else, even though it's, European football, but less money. No, it's just one of them sort of interesting takes of like the almost arrogance of, it's not worth it. Like, yeah, for me, every team should want if you're in that conversation, you should want some sort of European football. You know, if
You
you're
know,
a 12th and below team, then probably it's kind of just finish as high up the table as you can. Because again, that's another thing, isn't it? The higher in the Premier League you finish, the larger the briefcase of money is.
yeah, exactly. And the more chance you've got of being on TV the following year. I know, obviously, the likes of Sky and TNT, etc., or HBO Max, whatever it's going to be now. I don't know. You know, they say it's all free. You know, it's all shared out, and everyone gets the same amount. But we know they don't. You know, the so-called big six get more than their fair share of TV, so they get the revenue. I mean, I understand in a way from Chelsea's point of view, thinking that they might lose out on match day revenue, so to speak, if they're in a conference league on a Thursday night or Europa League, and then they're playing games on a Sunday, because obviously for their corporate fan base, Sunday's not a good day. You know,
Yeah,
whereas Saturday, prime time Saturday for the TV at 5:30 or whatever, rather than the 12:30 kickoff, um, they will probably do a lot better financially from the corporate world on those days. Whereas on a Sunday, it might not have the revenue pull for them. And obviously, you'd still have to have basically two squads of players like they did the last time they were in the Conference League when they won it. You know,
yeah,
where you
that's
can
true.
put a team in the Conference League, a team in the Premier League. I mean, obviously, they've got a massive, massive squad, far bigger than our squad. And that's one of the things that will maybe impact us a lot, that we're going to rely on people playing 2 games a week, you know, for a vast majority of the season.
Yeah, which obviously does make it a little bit tougher. But no, I mean, that was just a really random thing that's sort of been all over social this week because of where we're sitting in the league, and it was worth sort of mentioning. In terms of Chelsea, then obviously we know what they can do. They've obviously had a good season, but it's sort of petered off at the end. Obviously, their three managers this season haven't helped. So obviously, yeah, they've now announced they've got a new manager starting in a month's time. What do we think of their current caretaker? Does he is he checked out now? He knows he's gone because let's be honest, Alonso's going to bring all his own people in. Do you know what I mean? So he's not going to be sitting on the coaching staff unless he drops back into the under setup. Um, does he check out or does he think this is one last hurrah? Look at what I can achieve.
Actually, Kev, that's not quite true. Xabi Alonso said that he will have him in the first team coaching setup.
That does surprise me because normally you get a coach of that caliber, they
Yeah.
bring their own squad.
Yeah, they do, but I think the way that the modern game is with these people coming in, and the interesting thing with Xabi Alonso's appointment, I don't want to make this all about Chelsea, but it is a preview for them after all. But he's not coming as a head coach; he's coming as a manager. So they've basically given him a bit more freedom than what they did before. I think they might have realised that the model that they were trying to work under, more of the type of the American type model, that you get a head coach and, you know, the players are picked for him and he has to do his best to make them. They're actually giving Xabi Alonso, you know, freedom to go out and pick the players. Apparently, he's got a list of players that he wants. He's got a list of players that he wants rid of. Um, you know, but yeah, was it Callum McFarlane is apparently going to be part of the first team coaching setup. I suppose in a way like Regis when he came in. You know, obviously, you know, we've got I mean, we had Dodds there originally, then obviously he went off. We got Michael Proctor, you know, which has stayed there. You know, it's like people that have been promoted from within. So yeah, there is a change in uh the way that things are done now, about you bringing like 8 backroom stuff and things like that. I think the clubs have sort of
Reined
put
it
a
in.
stop to that, mainly
Yeah,
because of the amount of compensation that's paid out and stuff like that. because obviously if they do get rid of somebody and they've got to get rid of 8 stuff and then bring in someone else, I think it's a case of, well, look, we've got this set up. You can bring in maybe 1 or 2, but you're not bringing in the full amount.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, for me, that was one of the things I was wondering what McFarlane would do with this current game. Is it kind of a duck out kind of moment, but maybe not. Um, Obviously, from the press conference today, then we know that Alderete is a doubt, could be tricky. I think that was Regis's words. So likely to probably start with Luke at the back. Um, I can hear the groans now from some fans, but just remember how well he played against Everton. And the other one that is out is Talby. Now, obviously, that is a loss, albeit in the Everton game, he came on in the 60 something minute. But we did say how key the substitutions were in that Everton game. Do you just see him going back to the original starting lineup that we had against Everton, albeit swapping Omar and '09 around?
Yeah, with the exception of that, I think it'll probably be the same. What you've got to think about as well, and I mean, I think obviously Regis has got a duty to not give the team away, but let's face it, Omar's going to the World Cup. He's not going to risk getting injured again. If it's not 100%, he's not playing. He won't even make the bench. Same with Tauby. He's going to the World Cup. Is he going to risk anything? No. That's what I'm sort of hoping, like on the Chelsea side of it. Reece James, I know he just came back last week for the FA Cup. Was it the FA Cup or the Tottenham match? But are they going to risk him going when he's just been named in the World Cup squad? With his injuries this year. And that's the tricky thing, really. You've got players that maybe, I'm hoping more from the Chelsea side, that don't want to give 100% because they don't want to risk getting injured. And that's the thing. I think, obviously, I mean, we've got the likes of, obviously Wilson's going to the World Cup. Obviously, Xhaka's going to the World Cup. So we've got players that are there, but I think we're a different mentality to what Chelsea are.
Well, definitely. I think, and also the characters we've got. I know
Yeah,
you're probably just about to mention that, but the players that we have in our squad, if they're fit, they will want to play. Whereas I think
100%.
Chelsea, Chelsea are exactly like you've just said there. Cole Palmer, maybe not the example to use, but those sort of players, it's like, well, if I play, I play. If I don't, I don't. And it's quite well known, isn't it? You just need to walk into that medical room a couple of days before the game and say, "Oh, Gaffer, I've got an issue with my groin or lower back." Physio's not going to manage to work that issue out or even check it. There are players that have done that in the past in the
Oh,
run up
100%.
to, you know, um, yeah, run up to World Cups, qualifiers, transfers. You
Yeah,
know,
it goes on in football all the time. I mean, you mentioned Cole Palmer. I mean, obviously he's just missed out on the World Cup squad. So is he going to be in the right sort of mentality to play, or is he going to want to go and say, "Well, hang on a minute, you could have had this." Obviously on his day, he's an absolutely talented, super footballer, but is he in the right mindset for it? Obviously, like you mentioned Garnacho before, attitude problem at Manchester United seems to have the same attitude problem at Chelsea. He wants the lifestyle of being a famous footballer without actually putting in the hard work to be a famous footballer.
there is that.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things. It's a really tricky sort of situation and what goes on. I mean, I do think that when Xabi Alonso comes in, I do think he's going to have to get some people to work on the mentality of these Chelsea players, psychiatrists or a sports whatever they are, to get these players in the right mindset because this season they certainly haven't been.
Yeah. No, that's one of those things, isn't it? And to our listeners, obviously they haven't seen that. Yeah, I was putting it in my head when I mentioned about mentality because I do think that is a problem that happens. Players get to a certain level. Raheem Sterling's a good example. Got to a certain level, and then it gets too much for them almost. He ended up at Feyenoord, and I believe he got one appearance. this is what I think
Yes.
is the problem with certain players. They hit a certain ceiling, maybe their expectations outweigh their abilities, and I hope that's the Chelsea that turn up on Sunday. I hope the likes of Palmer's head down because he's not made the World Cup squad, and those that have made their respective World Cup teams are either not giving it 100% because they're keeping it safe for the World Cup. And I think our lads give absolutely everything to the last second for the red and white.
100%. Our mentality's a lot different, and when you look at the two squads on paper, I mean, look, quite clearly they've got a better squad, but they're not better footballers. I don't think they've been better coached. They certainly haven't got the right mentality that we have. They haven't got the passion. I think obviously when players have come in and they've talked about the club and the fans and the local area and stuff, and they all say the same thing. It means so much. Whereas in the likes of Chelsea, I mean these players won't live anywhere near Chelsea. To be honest, they'll probably live in the outskirts near the training ground in Cobham and stuff like that in the leafy suburbs. I mean, some of the younger ones might have sort of penthouse flats, around sort of like Chelsea and Knightsbridge, but let's face it, they're living a completely different lifestyle.
Yeah, they're not ingrained in the community, so to speak. I think that's one thing that Jacques has said, isn't it, in his interviews recently, is this reminds him very much of his upbringing and the hard work, graft mentality. Um, but I think, that side of it, brings us quite nicely to the atmosphere. Obviously, the club have very, very cunningly this weekend. It's the last game of the season. All the till the end marketing is absolutely everywhere. The eagle-eyed of you have noticed, obviously, in the cat's eyes is the map of Europe. So, fair play to the marketing team again for a little bit of a nod to what is going on. Obviously, I've driven through the city today, and yeah, all the digital billboards on the side of the car parks and anywhere and everywhere is till the end. The black poster with the gold writing on. So we're going for this. Regis said that in his press conference. You know, we need to focus on the game in hand, and it has been a brilliant season, but something exceptional could happen at the weekend, and yeah, we could all be at 6 o'clock celebrating qualifying for Europe. Um, on that side of it, from the first minute, well, even beforehand, I think they're lining the coach route, same as we did for the playoff final. I mean, a playoff semi-final even. We
Yeah.
didn't line the bus route for Wembley. We would have if we could have, but that's the one thing for me. We are going back to what we did against Coventry. Pump the players up, fill the city with red smoke, make Chelsea realise they're coming to a cauldron. That this isn't just turning up against newly promoted Sunderland. I think they learned that when we played them at their place, to be fair. But
Yeah.
you know, I think that's the one thing Chelsea will look at is they know we can hurt them. And this weekend, our fans are going to do that on Sunday. You're going to walk to that ground, and it's just going to be a thicker smoke, atmosphere, noise. I think that well, if the players aren't up for it, they're not in the right club. And I don't think any of our players are going to be like that, to be honest.
No, I think every single player is going to be up for it.
And that's what it is. I mean, obviously in the ground this is weird side of putting a display, and obviously they're doing their usual. There's going to be little sneak peeks and little sort of teasers out there, but they're not showing what it's going to be. The cat's eyes is obviously synonymous with our till the end journey. I think we didn't invent the wording, but I would say out of all the clubs that have now used it, we were the original till the enders, and that was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I just think, yeah, this weekend's going to be an absolute blast. Obviously, yeah, I think no matter the result, qualify for Europe or not, those players deserve absolutely everything from us in the when the final whistle goes.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I hope it's obviously a bit better than obviously a couple of seasons ago when that final game when we lost to Sheffield Wednesday and people just left early and stuff like that. This, even if we do lose, this team deserve that lap of honour and to
In
be
full stadium.
a standing ovation at a full stadium. And anyone that leaves before that happens really needs to look at themselves and think what a season we've had. And do you
They could have
think we'd
waited
be
5 more minutes.
do you think we'd be in this position when we got promoted last year? And that's the thing. And those lads, the players on the pitch, the coaching staff, the board, the ownership, all deserve a full stadium round of applause.
I would agree with you. That's the thing for me. We watched obviously the Everton game. We spoke about it in the review. The final whistle went in that ground, and Seamus Coleman comes out to say thank you to about 1,500 fans. No matter what that result needs to be on Sunday, I would hope every stand stays and gives the lads that thank you.
Yeah.
So obviously we've waffled. I'm sure Adam will critique this in the background. Let's quickly grab some predictions. Obviously, if you give me yours, and I believe Adam's texted you his earlier.
Yeah. Adam texted me his, and predictably, Adam didn't go for his usual 3-0. He went for a 2-1. He did put the two first, so I'm guessing he meant a home win. Yeah, no, I'm thinking along the similar lines of that. I'm thinking we might actually get it 3-1 like last weekend. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if we did go a goal behind and then turned it round. And then, I mean, if we do, I mean that's 25 points from losing positions. I mean, I don't know what the Premier League record is, but that's got to be up there somewhere.
Yeah, I think
We're
we're
on
already pretty much touching that record now.
Yeah, so we're on 22 points, from losing positions as it is. I do think, look, I would love an absolute demolition 5-0 and it'd be nice and comfortable and we can all celebrate. And then, we see at half time that Brentford and Brighton are losing 5-0 each as well. And we're thinking, hang on a minute, this is it. But I don't think with us being Sunderland, that's going to be the case.
No, never going to be the easy way, is it? Let's be honest. Me personally, I think it's going to be 1-0 to us. I think it's going to be an edgy affair. I think it's going to be a lot of the dark arts. Frustratingly, I think Chelsea are going to try and keep the ball out of play as much as they can. I don't think they're going to want a game. Obviously, we know we don't like too much possession, but we have adapted recently to teams that don't want the ball. Um, I'd take any result, to be honest with you, as long as we get 3 points, like you say, because we'll finish in a position above the visitors. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, to be finishing this season mid-table, mate, I'm buzzing anyway.
Yeah, I mean that is it. That's what it's about, isn't it? I mean, we've got promoted. We would have all took 17th. We're going to finish well clear of that. So yeah, look, let's line that bus route. Let's turn it. Let's make it an absolute cauldron of noise. Non-stop from before the lads set foot on the pitch. To after that lap of honour.
That's just it, mate. Beautifully put. Look, I'm going to wrap this one up on that. Thank you for joining me for what's been an outstanding season. Obviously, the three of us will all get back together, and maybe even Chris, if he can join us with the time delays, to review what's been hopefully an amazing match and also a brilliant season. Obviously, safe travels up tomorrow. Obviously,
Cheers, mate.
Radio One big weekend is on, so please, to any fans that are listening, bear that in mind on your travelling because it is all weekend. So anyone near Penshire, Herrington Park, it's chaos. So plan ahead for that. Same for you.
Yeah.
Obviously, you need to mind that as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, luckily I'll be coming in sort of like, I'll get off a bit early and I'll be coming in through, sort of like Hendon Way. So I'll avoid Herrington Park area. Um, but yeah, just exactly the same thing, Kev. Match dates a 4 o'clock kickoff. Let's all get there nice and early. Let's avoid the area around the big weekend if we can. Um, you know, give yourself plenty of time. Maybe use public transport to get in if you can rather than drive. And get out, spend some money in the club shop, snapping up the last few shirts that they've got. I did say that, I mean, I noticed the last time I was in there, I'll just point this out, they've got this thing now where you can get personalised key rings off the shirts for this season. Obviously, they'll change that next season, but it's a little keepsake as well, to have obviously the season shirt on personalised. I mean, you can put your name on it, you can put obviously, the season number on it, whatever you want to do, but it's a little keepsake from this season. I think going ahead, I think that might be quite a big thing that the club do.
I saw that the other week. It's a nice little touch. But as to our listeners, look, thank you for listening to us two idiots waffle on for a bit, and we will catch you all on the next one.